Hi, everyone, and welcome to Divinely Empowered with Antonia. Today we have Spring, who's one of my advanced practitioners. I've known her for a very long time, and she's just had a healing breakthrough with my new techniques. I've just developed something called deleting source code. Which is really, really exciting. And it will be something I'm teaching my level 13 students in November. But let's hear from Spring and hear her story. First of all, Spring, welcome and thank you for joining me.
Hi, Antonia. Thanks for having me. Hello, everybody who will be watching this. It's been quite an intense time. Both obviously exciting because as one of the Divine Empowerment Advanced practitioners, I'm always excited about the new tools. But it's of course a completely different experience when you're essentially going through the healing with these new tools yourself. But yeah, I'm very happy to be here.
Okay, so let's just get straight to it. What happened?
Okay.
What's the situation? Yeah.
Yeah, so in August this year, so in May this year, I started experiencing very strong abdominal pain. It's not clear if all of the abdominal pain actually comes from what was found in my uterus. I'm still having checks done. But it sort of sent me off on this little mission to find out what was going on with me. And by the time it was August, I'd seen a specialist for a urologist, so for my bladder, and I'd also seen a gynecologist. And in the end, it turned out I was diagnosed with myoma, or a benign tumor in my uterus. And so that was, at first it was a shock, despite being a healer and despite knowing what can be behind this. It was still a shock to me. There was a lot of fear around it. So my natural instinct was to then go and have a look in the book that we use in Divine Empowerment, and to also speak to you and to speak to other Divine Empowerment practitioners about, what emotions, what traumas could be behind this condition, and why did it even come to the point that I would develop a benign tumor in my uterus. So that's what happened.
Great. So how big was it?
When it was diagnosed, it was 1.5 centimeters. It's not huge, but big enough to be noticeable on the scans, and obviously big enough to give me discomfort. Yeah.
So Spring, they did scan her, and there are ultrasounds of this that she's requested from the doctors, but is yet to receive. I just thought we'd get this information out as soon as we can, because this happened last week. So it's very, very quick what we're talking about, but I just wanted to bring this out. So, okay. So what you did was you went for the normal practice and you went through the textbook that we use, Metaphysical Anatomy, and you went to delete all the emotions associated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was the first step, is to work with other Divine Empowerment advanced practitioners, like you said, to delete the emotions and work through all of what was going on, and also actually making changes in my life that had led to me feeling a certain way. But then by the time it was October, so last week, I had an episode of intense pain again. And I was quite distraught because, I'd already done so much healing on it. And then that's when I got in touch with you, and you told me that you had just downloaded this new tool. So you started
today. It was today. It was like, I think it was last Tuesday.
Yeah.
I was like, I've learned something new that I got today. And
Yeah.
what's quite interesting as well. So I have a hypothesis. Now, this isn't something which has been proven medically. There is no literature on this, but I have an idea that I have a theory about gas, liquid, solid, and that it's that diseases are caused by compressed trauma and us getting fixated on some awful situation that's happened, and that's a gas. And then it goes to a specific area of the body, and the more gas the more gas and more thoughts that you have, the more densely packed it becomes, and it goes from a gas to a liquid to a solid. So I think, and this has happened, this does sometimes happen for sure, but it's not medically either known or spoken about. I don't know which one it is. I do think that cysts often can become traumas, and I think that's the process. And I do remember I was working on a lady years ago who mother and daughter both had this lump in their breast in exactly the same location. Now, the husband or father had actually just recently passed, and they were very, very upset about it. And what had happened was they ended up both getting this lump in this same place. Now, the mother's one had solidified. It had become a tumor, and she ended up dying of breast C, unfortunately. But the daughter's one was soft in exactly the same location. It was more like a cyst. And it was really interesting because I ended up working on the daughter, and I deleted all the emotions associated, and the cyst vanished in 24 hours. But my belief is, although this isn't, medically proven in any way, but my belief is that if people get stuck, then it sort of compresses and then becomes C potentially. That's my belief. It's not, as I said, that's just the way I think things work. So what's really interesting about Spring is she went through our textbook, which is spot on. It's brilliant. I mean, honestly, Yvette Rose is a genius as far as I'm concerned. And you went through the ones for the emotions for various different illnesses, and you went through the ones for cyst, I believe, and you went the ones for the big C, uterine C, and they resonated for you, didn't they?
Yeah, yeah. I also included bladder C, and so what was interesting is that so I looked at problems in the uterus, then I looked at fibroids and cysts, and then I also looked at tumor by itself because that's listed as a separate section, and then also anything to do with the bladder. And what was interesting is that all of them had a pattern in terms of the emotions and the traumas and the things that I was experiencing in my private life or had experienced. So there was a common denominator, if you like.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was interesting that even though it was a benign tumor, that I was resonating with the emotions that were listed under cancer. So whether that was bladder or uterus cancer. So
let's just not use that word too much because it's not good for YouTube, please. Let's go with the word C.
Okay, C. And so I had been reassured that it was benign and that it didn't look like it had turned. I had had tests done to rule out that I had C in my body or that it was moving in that direction. But the resonance, the emotional resonance, and the underlying feelings that are listed in the book still somehow created a response in my system. So
I wonder if you were pre-C or pre-C. As I said, I'm not a medical practitioner, so I can't diagnose. But I just wonder in my own self, if you hadn't changed your life and worked on yourself, if it may have gone that way. That's
obviously
we will never know that for sure, but it just is an interesting hypothesis that maybe if you hadn't changed things quite dramatically, things would have continued to escalate and become worse. So yeah, that's my thinking on it. But it was really interesting because then we started to use this new energy. So you'd done all the normal stuff. So And I don't think it was the big C. I think you were. It wasn't as bad as that. It was benign, but it means it's not. You know, a benign one is just that it's encased. The difference for people who are unaware of this, it's encased. Whereas C spreads, it's like it bursts and it leaks throughout the body and goes and spreads to different areas. Whereas a benign one is capsulated and then it doesn't go anywhere else. So that's one of the major differences. I mean, they are both irregular cells growing where they shouldn't, but intrinsically, it's about it being capsulated and not capsulated is the major difference between the two, I believe. I did check it with the doctor before I came on just to make sure that I was making sure that I was making sense and saying this as correctly and as fully as possible. So what's really interesting is then I invented this new style of healing because we've been working on source code. So I'm just going to explain what source code is because it's very new. It's going to be in my level 13, which I'm teaching in the beginning of November. But it's we had to develop it because we had some problems recently. And very interestingly, Spring was one of the ones who was helping at the time. So she was part of the development process only because I threw my hands in my air and I got frustrated. So what happened was, and that's how I create a lot of things, by just getting frustrated about things, I think. And I'm just like, right, that's not working. I need something new. So if people are aware that I did some videos with Ishmael Perez, who's a wonderful human, I did some videos with him a month ago or so. And we had a very big attack because he has a great following and he's a wonderful voice of the spiritual community. And there are certain nefarious forces who don't want me getting this information out. And he's a voice to be able to speak with, to be able to get the stuff out. So there was a big attack and we were looking into it. And there was a lot of different beings and players and ships and all sorts of crazy stuff who had come to stop that recording from working. Now, the first one that I did, it was very odd because I was... Ishmael could hear me perfectly. However, between it went wrong after that. So no one else in the recording could hear me apart from him. And so there was something cookie that happened somewhere along the line. So no one else could understand me. So we ended up having to re-record. And that was because there was a big attack. So then we recorded again a week later. So it just was a failure, basically. And it was completely unhearable and unmanageable. So then, and then we were like, Spring and I and a couple of other people, Renee and Lisa and Julia, we're all trying to work out what do we do to preempt this, to make sure that that this doesn't happen again and that we get the message out as clearly and as easily and as we can. So there was a lot of they were duplicating things is what was going on. There were all these ships and beings and duplications. And it was really like we were working from the outside in and we were trying to move. I do a lot of rescue missions and sending beings to different, I send them to different dimensions where they can't harm people and they get that. A lot of them are in slavery, so it's sort of sending them to live out their lives without being slaves and in a sort of a paradise planet for themselves, so that they are just happy and content and everything's very lovely for them. So I often build a lot of different places for them. So it's like portaling and sending and doing all these different things, but it was just so thick and fast. I just got frustrated about the whole thing. It was just too thick and too fast. So I was like, right, we need to go to the source. Like, we're always like, what's the step behind? What's the step behind? What can we go to? And then I was like, right, source code. And source code came into me. And source code is really interesting because I'm using computer technology or computer jargon, which is really interesting because I am really like leaning towards us living in simulation. It's really getting quite, I think that it probably is that now. It's like it's all roads are leading to us living in some sort of simulation, and that's what we'd had to do to hack the matrix, is to get out of the simulation. Anyway, so I was like, right, source code, and we was like, delete source code for this attack, and then everything went. Whoa. And a source code is it's the original coding for a program. So if you're building a computer program, you have original source code, and then everything to build the program from that is added to or duplications of the source code. But that's the original source code, and that runs through everything in that computer program. So it's really the backbone or the foundations or a combination. It's almost the blood of a program is the source code. And without the source code, the whole house of cards falls down. Everything just collapses without the source code. So I was like, right, if we can get to the source code of something, then the whole thing falls apart. And that's what we were doing for this attack. So we worked this out. We were doing it for this attack. And then I was thinking, what are the other applications for this? And can we use this for emotions? Can we do this different things? So I was using it on emotions, and that was clearing things very, very quickly. And then I thought, I reckon we can start using this for illnesses, because I'm always looking for the one technique that can do most things, that can make things like very succinct. And I love the book Metaphysical and Physical Anatomy, but I want to get to the stage of not having to read a textbook to then delete the emotions. I'm looking for the thing behind the thing behind the thing, and that seems to be source code. So I thought, I wonder if we can delete the source code for Spring's benign tumor. I think we actually didn't even do a benign one. I think we worked on malignant. I think we worked for a more aggressive one than actually it was manifesting in the physical. I think we just went for the big C. I just said, yeah, that was what I did. I said, delete Spring's C. And we had to go through and what did you see? So Spring is she's a very talented psychic. So what could you see as I was deleting the source code for your C?
Yeah, so when I was tuning in as you were working on me, what I saw was, and I could physically feel it as well. So I had been in pain, like extreme pain, for 24 hours already by this stage. The day previously, so around about 24 hours before, I was at a point where the pain was so strong I couldn't even move properly. And so this was 24 hours later, and the pain was still there. And when you started working on me, so physically it felt like it felt as if someone was putting a lamp there, like it was quite warm. And in my psychic sight, what I saw, it almost looked like a beam of radiation, up straight onto the benign tumor, or the growth, whatever you want to call it. And I could, the benign tumor looked, like, to me it looked red, like it was inflamed and almost like
Angry.
yeah, almost angry, like aggressive. And that's probably what was causing the pain. And as you kept sort of beaming it with this, what looked like a stream of radiation,
Or laser.
yeah, I could see like it was becoming smaller, but also the red was vanishing, it was leaving, and it became a normal skin color.
You could see the strands of DNA unraveling. There was an unraveling as well.
After, yeah, I could begin to, I don't know how long you were working on me for, it was maybe 2 minutes into it, something like that. There was a change where you began to ask me or you told me this is the second stage, and it looked almost like DNA strands that were being recoded. So it looked like the cells were being recoded, rewritten to their original state, to their healthy original state. And the more, and I could see that the swelling, what looked like a swelling, was like it was just evening out, going down, and it began to physically feel cooler, like the irritation was leaving. Yeah.
And your pain went, because you were still in pain when you called me, weren't you?
Yes, the pain started going down, and I think it was 24 hours after the session with you, I was pain-free pretty much. So it was the next day. I cycled, I walked, I did
And
yoga.
you'd been doubled over in pain, and you were unable to really leave your bed, weren't you? You went from severe pain
I went from being crawled up in bed and having taken, and running energy on myself, having other people run energy on me, and taking painkillers, and despite the painkillers, still feeling pain. And I went from that to then having a session with you. And then 24 hours after the session, I was up, I was active, I was feeling good, I was happy. I left you a voice note telling you how I was feeling. And also, but what was interesting is that within those 24 hours, without going into details, I could feel my, let's just put it this way, I could feel my body working, like it was expelling
You were
whatever.
purging.
I was purging, yeah.
Polite way of saying it.
Expelling whatever toxicity needed to leave my body, essentially. And then, so 24 hours later, I was okay. And then 48 hours later, I went for another scan because I wanted to see. I have to add that, so I'd had the first scan where they found it in August. That was done in Spain. And then I did the scan where I currently live in Luxembourg, so it's different countries. And the gynecologist here, when she did the scan and I told her, and I showed her the diagnosis, she looked it up and she said that the area where supposedly it should be, it just looked like a shadow. She said, if anything, it's only a suspicion of one. I couldn't give you a definite diagnosis of there being a benign tumor. And even she even said to me, I don't understand why you were told this. I don't understand why you were told this. You look fine to me. You look healthy to me.
It's almost like you were misdiagnosed. Yeah, they were saying, and clearly you weren't, because you've got the scan from before with a picture of it, and then you've just got a shadow in the one after 48 hours after me.
Yes. Yeah.
And I also made you poke your tummy, didn't I, straight away? Like,
Yeah.
I think that on the session we did that because you were in a lot of pain. I think
Yes.
the pain
So
went. When did I make you?
Before we
When was
started, you had asked me to poke, and it was very painful. And then after the session, when I poked the same area, so the right where it was, it didn't hurt anymore. And I was poking it quite hard. It wasn't like I was just touching it a bit. I was really poking it. And
that was straight away, was it?
That was immediate. Yeah.
Which is pretty wild that it went from being doubled up in pain to like pressing the area and nothing at all.
And nothing, yeah.
And then 48 hours, you know, you've just got a shadow and it just looks like it's just almost vaporizing if there's a shadow. That's not
exactly. And also the fact that she was genuinely surprised. She thought I'd been misdiagnosed.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
It just finished.
Crazy.
Yeah. So this is the new stuff. This is source code. So yeah, I mean, I don't know the scope of it. I literally developed it last week. What day was this? Tuesday, wasn't it? Was it Monday or Tuesday last week?
I can tell you. Wait.
I don't know. Well, it was one of the days last week, and now it's the following Monday. So it's less than a week old. So I just literally developed it. So we will see what this is. I'm also working on someone who's got C, but much more aggressive. So we'll see what happens. I don't know what the capabilities of this are, and obviously
it was
Tuesday. So it's 6 days ago. Okay. Yeah. So I don't know that I can do that. Yeah. I know people will be watching this and go, oh my goodness, you can help me with that. I don't have any experience in that apart from a tiny little melanoma my friend had on his skin and that went years ago. But I'm not claiming to be able to do that. I just think it's very interesting that it can be called a fibroid or it can be called a benign tumor. It's just a hard lump within her uterus was literally, you know, proven to be gone within 48 hours. But you would think from your own pain levels that it was gone in 24, would you? Or when did you think it went yourself? Or straight away?
I do think, I mean, the pain levels went down immediately, but my body was purging, as we said. And that took a good 48 hours. So it wasn't until 48 hours after that I would say that it would have probably left my system. Yeah,
Yeah,
because it was
that's
48 hours as well when I then went to have the scan just for myself to be able to see is there a difference or not. And yeah, so I would say between 24 and 48 hours.
yeah, and that's the first time we've done it. So, you know, these things always get quicker. But, you know, we've only done it the once. So this is not, yeah, it's just very interesting and very exciting that this has happened and, you know, where it potentially could be going. And we will, Spring has asked for the scans because she's done it privately. So hopefully they'll give you the scans and then we can potentially do another video or just post the scans somewhere and show people the before and after, but I just wanted to share what we've been up to recently. Very exciting. So how do you feel now? So have you reread the textbook and seen if there's any associated emotions or?
No, I haven't yet, but I one thing when so in the during the time when I was my body was purging, I was emotionally purging too. So a lot of emotions came up. It was quite intense. So I think because this new tool's so strong and so intense, like the reaction to it is quite intense as
I
well.
think it'll settle though.
Now it's settled. So within those 48 hours, I would say maybe even 3 days, there was a lot of shifting and changing. And now I feel like it's settled. And a lot of the sort of heavy emotions that came up are not present with me at this point. So I have the book with me. I was going to read it tonight and then I can tell you, but I think overall
You
also
know what the major themes were, and if you think about the major themes, because obviously you'd read various different passages. If you think about the major themes, and they just feel empty now, or do they feel so something? What happens when you think about them?
the major themes feel empty. Yeah,
Yeah.
neutral.
Yeah, that's what we're looking for. If it feels neutral and it actually is truly neutral, then there's a possibility these
Yes.
things might be going. And it does remind me of there's a Greg Braden video, which is, did you watch that video I sent you in the end?
Not yet. Sorry.
There's a Greg Braden video from years ago, which is from a hospital in China, which got shut down at some point by the bad guys, I believe. And there were three people. I mean, they're more advanced. I'm not doubting that they were more advanced, but I watched this video years ago and it was very inspiring. And what they do is they say something in Chinese, which is, it means already done, but it's like hom shi. I'm butchering it. I know I am. But they say it sounds like that to my Western ears. But they say this thing, and within then somebody has a tumor on in their bowels, and within 3 minutes you can see it on the screen, and they're doing an ultrasound, a live ultrasound, and it literally just vanishes from this hard lump and it just sort of dissipates into nothing, and it does become like a shadow and then it just becomes nothing. So that's, you know, that was three practitioners who were super duper advanced, and we're not there, but maybe one day I will get to that stage, or we will get to that stage to be able to do that, because now it doesn't feel like it's a million miles away. It feels like that's much more attainable.
Yeah.
Not there yet, but an exciting idea that could be working in that way. And I'm also, as you know, we're not there yet, but you know, that I watched probably, I mean, years and years ago, maybe 10 years ago or so. And that just really, really inspired me that the potential would be this way. So yeah, doing totally different techniques, but that would be amazing to be able to film that. And it's quite blurry. It's like, it's quite an old tape. I think it's from the 80s or 90s, but it's pretty amazing. But yeah, so it's sort of potentially heading in that sort of direction, which is exciting.
Mm-hmm. You could add the link to that video in your below
Description. Yeah, I can do that. I'll add the link to the video and then people can watch it for themselves and then see that, you know, this has happened. So it's not like you know, these things are possible and other people have been doing it for a very long time, you know. And it's we've been misled that there's not that many people who can do these like seemingly miraculous things. There's in Chinese and Tibetan written history, there's 160,000 monks who could do instant healing of all diseases and instant manifestation, all the sort of things that JC was doing. That all the sort of things that Jesus was doing, they were able to do on the Buddha. And there's many different people who have been able to do these sorts of things during history. But, you know, in Chinese and Tibet, it's just this written history, 160,000. So it's extremely special and extremely rare, but there are still, it makes it much more attainable if there are hundreds of thousands of people who've been able to do it rather than just two guys or, you know, a couple of guys. So it's it makes it closer to be able to do it.
I can't wait to learn it in November.
And you're going to learn it in November. Yeah. But I mean, yeah, not at their level. I'm not claiming to be them, and they are more advanced. Absolutely. But it just means that, you know, we're just playing and learning and growing and seeing what we can do. And then, you know, when necessity strikes, it's like, right, well, let's see if this works, and trying a new technique. And it seems to be successful, and it's very exciting to be able to work on these things. So, you know, and any sort of hard lump, I don't know, potentially that could be working for people's different hard lumps, not the ones which have got the C, we're not there yet, but hard lumps in general, I reckon might be able to be broken down with this new technique. And goodness knows the scope of it, because I think it's going to be very broad. And I think that it means that we don't need to potentially use the textbook anymore, and we just go in and work on the name of it in a broad way. Actually, interestingly, I've got another example of this. One of my cats, I have a lot of cats right now. One of my cats called Yoda, she ended up sneezing and coughing. And I've never seen a cat with a coldy coffee thing. I've never, like, my other cats never had that. Anyway, so Yoda had this the other day, and I was like, what the hell's going on? So then I used the source code and deleted Yoda's respiratory problems, because I wasn't sure. I videoed it. Like, is it a cough? Is it a cold? What is it? And I like researched it, and I don't know anything about cats having colds because I've never had a cat with a cold. So anyway, I deleted a respiratory condition. It was gone in 24 hours. And she'd had it for the day before as well. I don't know how long she'd had it, but she was sneezing or coughing quite a lot. And then it was completely gone immediately. So I think this is quite broad and can do lots of different things. And it was just, you know, respiratory illness from Yoda, delete source code of, and it just vanished. So I don't know where it's going, how many applications we've got for it, but it's still growing in me before we teach it in November. So yeah.
Yeah, I meant excited to learn your new technique, not what the Chinese and Tibetans have been.
Yeah, that's much harder to do. Yeah. I mean, one of the ways that they do it is they only have loving thoughts. Was it 12 years? This is all from David Wilcox, who's done a load of research into this stuff. It's his wisdom and his research. I like to credit him because he's awesome. So I think it was 12 years. I might have got that wrong, but only loving thoughts for a very, very long time. God, that would be difficult. Imagine you literally have to go live in a forest. Yeah. You know, it's easier to do. And there's also some symbols that people meditate upon, but they just literally have to go and live like a hermit and to evolve their system and do a ton of meditation. Whereas, you know, now the practitioners these days can just sit at home in their pajamas with a cup of tea, watch some videos and get superpowers. I mean, it's a different thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you've suffered because you've been with me since the beginning. So you've had to endure some of the levels, and you know, it's all very easy for the people doing it now, but the people who are in the upper classes have really had some you've had to do some of the integration with some of the pain and suffering. Tell us about some of the suffering you've had.
Well, I was just telling some of my own students today that when I was training, I can't remember what level it was, but I've had a few levels where on the first day of training, literally an hour or half an hour before getting on Zoom to do the training with you, I would have to vomit, and it's not the first time. So, and I'm not the only one. I know from other students who've gone through the same. So.
And then the exhaustion, and then the muscle aches and pains,
exactly.
The fatigue.
Yeah. Feeling extremely tired, exhausted, even during the course. Like some of the levels, I remember the first day, by the time it was like 2 in the afternoon and we hadn't even finished the first lot of the lessons, to be completely exhausted, having to
And
sleep.
delirious people, and I look and I'm teaching, and like people's eyes start rolling back in their head. I'm like, right, we've got to stop. You guys can't even hear anymore.
Yeah, it's
So
been really intense, or feeling almost like having a fever coming on, so like really, really intense.
but then you get superpowers.
Exactly, and I'm glad that for, you know, it's going to sound weird, but the new generation of divine empowerment practitioners, that they don't have to go through half of we had.
I mean, some of them are doing it in a month or two, and they're just literally sitting there, and then they're suddenly like, bing, new person has suddenly come into the advanced practitioners with none of the suffering. I mean, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Lucky them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So anything else you want to share? So Spring is one of the advanced practitioners. If you want to book a healing with her, then please go ahead and go to the divineempowerment.com website. As mentioned, she and the other advanced practitioners will be able to do this technique in just a few weeks. On the 5th of November, 2023, this will be available to other people. Where it's going, how big this is, I don't know. But it seems exciting, and I've only just started with this. So, you know, we'll have updates with different healings that we're doing and finding out what this really means and what it can do. So yeah, it's all very, very exciting. But yeah, if you are watching this after November, then you can by all means book in with Spring. I'm the only one with it for the next month. And then they get it too. And then I have to share it. Damn it. Yeah, then they'll be able to do it as well. So yeah, we don't know the scope of it yet. As I said, I'm always nervous around the big C. I don't have I like things to work consistently, and I'm not there with that. But this is very interesting around the benign ones. So we will see what happens with this in the future. So anything else you wanted to say before we close, Spring?
Yeah, just thank you for having me. And yeah, everyone have a good day, night, morning, whenever you're watching this. And yeah, I'm excited about the November training.
Well, you always are, though, because I always pull some rabbit out of the hat, and it's like, oh, we can do this one now, and then there's something really cool. There's always something like
It's true.
epic.
I think that's what's so exciting about divine empowerment, that it's an alive lineage, right? It's not like you're obviously alive, but also the energy is alive. It keeps coming through, new things developing as we go, and that's what I personally love about it. To sort of
Because
grow with it, and just
and it was funny. One of the newest students the other day was asking, "What's in the level 13?" And I was like, "I don't know." Like, you're going to learn that no one knows until I announce it, until I've actually got it through, and then I start asking questions about things and trying to work things out. But yeah, or I do like a little video announcement about it, but it's only ever a few weeks before. It's never, I never know. And people, it's funny, like there were some people before like when I was actually teaching them before, saying what's going to be in the next one. I'm like, mate, that's in 5 months' time. I have not got a clue. I don't know. Something.
Yeah. I personally love that about it. I love not knowing what's going to come through and then finding out on the day. So
it's fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and then, you know, I just create things as and when the necessity arises, you know, like you needed that because, you know, that needed to be dealt with. And then it's like, bing, there's a new energy to solve that problem. It's good.
Yeah. So I got to be a guinea pig for you.
Lucky you. So thank you for your service and your sacrifice. You put yourself, you decided to put yourself in the firing line so that we could learn a new technique. So yeah.
All right.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining me today, Spring. And thank you everyone for watching. If you haven't already subscribed to my YouTube, please do so. And we also have a mailing list at which you can subscribe to at divineempowerment.com. On my mailing list, you will be getting extra things and special videos and all sorts of lovely things. And you will get a free healing, which you will be sent, which is worth £1,500, where I will be dissolving emotional traumas for you. So if you're not already on the mailing list, make sure you join. And thank you for subscribing to my YouTube. And thank you for watching. See you later, everybody. Bye-bye. Thank you, Spring.